Welcome to the Stronger Marriage Podcast with Trey and Lee. We are glad you joined us today.
Welcome to the Stronger Marriage Podcast with Trey and Lee. On this podcast, you'll hear real topics about real life. They cover everything from married sex to raising kids to loving your spouse so much that you're willing to forgive them for occasionally being the most annoying person in the world. Trey and Lee have raised 4 boys, been married over 30 years, and somehow still really like each other. And now, live from the metropolis of Childress, Texas, a place so flat you can watch your dog run away for 3 days. Here are your hosts for the Stronger Marriage Podcast, Trey and Lee Morgan.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome to the Stronger Marriage Podcast, where we bring you something on marriage and family every other week, a podcast episode, and we're glad that you've joined us.
Yeah. What do we got going on this week?
Actually, nothing. We got back from Red River, New Mexico, where it was in the 70s, and we've traded that for Texas weather.
Triple digits.
Yeah, and it's going to be that way for a while, so it's going to be
Yes.
hot. We are going later this month. This is July. This is July the 6th.
Mm-hmm.
We're going later this month to Franklin, Tennessee, with a workshop that is hosted by the Mount Juliet Church of Christ in Mount Juliet, Tennessee.
Yes, but they are doing this at a hotel in Franklin, July 21st and 22nd. It'll be a great time for a getaway. Really neat place to visit. So I'm pretty sure there's still rooms available, spots available.
There are about 10 spots left.
Yeah, so sign up if that sounds like, hey, we can pull that off at the last minute.
No childcare. Come get a room, hang out with us, visit Franklin. We've been there. We have visited all kinds of really cool stuff, and come spend a weekend with us. We've also opened registration for the Borger, Texas workshop. So if you're interested in coming up to the Texas Panhandle, come on. We'd love to have you. And then we have got an online date night coming up on July 31st that we're working on, where we're going to talk about 14 ways to bless your marriage. And if you're interested, you can join us that night. We'll start at 7 o'clock Central Time. We will send you an email with a little workbook in it where you can follow along as we go, and some homework as well. It'll be fun. It'll be a fun night. It'll last about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yep, all that's on our website. So we're talking today about 14 ways to bless your married sex life. And some of these points we've worked in to past podcasts, or if you've gone to one of our workshops, you've heard some of these points. But we want to bring these up again, and we think this is important. We've said this before. Anytime we do a podcast episode on married sex, it is the most popular. People listen. It tells us that people need or looking for answers on things like this. We get more questions about this topic than anything else. And so we want to keep in front of you good, healthy topics about married sex and what God has that looking like and how that's designed, because God's not embarrassed by married sex.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's a needed topic. People are looking for how to have a healthy sex life, how to have a better sex life, all of that within marriage.
Yeah, because there's a big connection. Intimacy, sexual intimacy is a huge connection in marriage. And we're going to talk about some of those things today. 14 things that will bless your married sex life. So let's just kick it off right off the bat. And I like to put it this way: keep your bed kid-free most of the time. Mm-hmm. Meaning, if you really want to have good intimacy in your bedroom, you can't let your kids sleep in your bed every night. And sometimes we've heard people go, yeah, dogs are an issue as well. So we're just talking kids right now. And it's okay if your kids show up at 3 o'clock in the morning on occasion with a bad dream. Sometimes they can make a pallet beside you. But we will tell you, if every night your children are sleeping in your bed with you from the time you get in until the time you get up, it is not going to benefit your sexual intimacy in your marriage.
Yeah. We'll probably get some pushback from this, because we've heard from a lot of couples that, co-sleeping is just something that they do. And they make it work somehow or another. But we just feel like you will have a better, healthier sex life if your kids sleep in their own beds.
Yeah, that's a healthy thing to do. And we visited with lots of couples who have fallen into this habit, and it's a bad habit. And they will tell you, we made the mistake of letting our kids sleep in our bed, and we like to have never got them out, and it hurt our sexual intimacy. So yes, if your kid shows up occasionally, that's okay. There were times when we had little ones, and I'd roll over at 3 o'clock in the morning and think, where did this kid come from? I don't remember him getting in our bed.
Yeah.
But if every night they start there, that's just not a healthy thing.
And we're not saying, make your kids stay in their room and cry and be scared. We never did that with our kids. You'd lay in there with them until they go to sleep. All of those things. Make your kids feel safe and secure, because we're not saying that at all. But there are ways to do that, to make your kids feel safe and secure without them being in your bed every night.
That's right. Sometimes at certain stages of our small children's lives, we spent time laying in bed with them until they either went to sleep or read them a book or whatever it was. But
yes. Every night I had to go in and wake you up and say, it's time to go to bed, honey, because
Yeah.
you would have fallen asleep
reading
with them as
yeah,
soon as your head hit the
sometimes
pillow.
that happens. That's true. That's true.
A lot of times you were asleep before the kids were asleep.
So point number 2,
Right
dads,
on.
if you're not if you're falling asleep in bed with your kids because you're reading to them, yeah, that was a point. That was humor. Number 2, you want to make privacy a priority.
Absolutely, yes. If you don't have a lock on your bedroom door, we strongly urge you to make that a top priority and get that done.
Yes, because you don't want little ones just barging in your room when you never know quite if they're asleep or not. We oftentimes say, and we'll talk about it down here in a minute, we oftentimes say that it's okay to schedule sex. We'll talk about that. And what that kind of means sometimes is there have been times in our past where we'd go, let's get the kids to bed early tonight and let's have some time together, and it was on the schedule. And so we would work to get those kids, but we weren't ever quite sure, are they down for the night? Are they asleep for the night? Are they going to get back up? And so we would go to the bedroom and lock a door knowing that they weren't just going to barge in. And that's healthy stuff. And so if you don't have a lock on your bedroom door, you really, really need a lock on your bedroom door.
Yes.
Included in that, and I think you get an idea, sometimes it's good to have a radio or a fan in your room as well. Once you get teenagers, you can't put them to bed at 8 o'clock at night.
You can't put them to bed early.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to go, we're tired, we're going to bed. Y'all turn out the lights and lock the door when y'all go to bed. And then you go to bed at 10 o'clock or whatever time y'all do and shut your door and lock it and turn on a fan or a radio or something that just makes some noise if that helps a little bit. But privacy is really, really important when it comes to sexual intimacy.
It is. Number 3,
don't let yourself go.
Don't let yourself
and
go.
there's a lot of things that this involves physically, mentally, emotionally.
Absolutely.
Talk about one of those.
Absolutely. The first thing you think of is, they're going to talk about, losing weight and all this kind of stuff. And while we're not necessarily going to talk to you about losing weight, we do stress to you and encourage you to be the best version of yourself that you can be. We realize that age and gravity are not kind to you. As you get older, you're not going to look like the person you looked like when you got married.
We don't look like we did when we
did
yeah.
when we got married. But we try to take care of ourselves, physically. We try to exercise. We try to eat right. We work out together. We go on walks together. And we keep regularly scheduled doctor visits to make sure our health is on the right track. And that just sends a message of love to your spouse to say, hey, I want to take care of myself for you so that, I'm in this for the long haul. I'm here for you as long as I can be here for you. And I don't want health issues to get in the way of anything. And health issues can be a huge deterrent to your sex life.
Yeah, and can I throw out real quickly, we visited with a couple not long ago. I thought this was fantastic. I've never thought about it this way. She said, one of the most romantic things my husband does for me, this was a couple probably in their 50s, and she said, one of the most romantic things my husband does for me is he takes care of his body. He tries to be healthy because it means that he cares about us. about our marriage, about our intimacy, about everything else. And I thought that was fantastic.
It is.
There are a lot of things physically that will hurt your sexual intimacy, sometimes medications, sometimes if you're in your mid-50s and sometimes 40s, you have, for men, there's low testosterone problems. For women, there are issues. We've talked about this before. I visited with a doctor who is a very close friend of mine the other day, and he said they have all sorts of amazing ways now to help people with low sex drives, where if two people have a low sex drive, there's not anything wrong with that. But if you've got a spouse that's got a high sex drive and one that's got no sex drive or a very low sex drive, it doesn't hurt to visit with your doctor about what can I do to increase my sex drive to make me more willing and helpful to meet my husband or my wife's needs.
Right. Yes, and it may not have to do with low sex drive. It may just be, there's plenty of people out there that sex is painful, and people are embarrassed to talk about that, and they're embarrassed to get help for that. But there is help out there, and we just want to stress to you, don't let your pride get in the way of having a healthy sex life. If there's anything you can do to improve it, then go see a doctor, do what you can do. Mm-hmm. You might need to go see a counselor for any number of things. There may be some things in your past that you need to work through. Whatever it is, just don't let pride get in the way of any of that.
Yeah. And I'll throw this out there. We've talked about this on another episode a few months back, but I take testosterone shots. Did a regular physical a while back, probably 5-6 years ago, and my doctor said, your testosterone's very low. He said, are you having problems sleeping? I said, I am. I don't sleep well at all. He said, he went through about 5 things that I thought, yeah, that's exactly what that is, and put me on some testosterone shots. When I'm taking them on a regular basis, man, I feel so much better. I have more energy. I sleep better. And everything else. So it's one of those things, don't be afraid to ask your doctor about, especially if you're a man and you're just kind of going, I'm a man and I shouldn't have to ask a doctor about this.
Right. It's not manly.
It's not manly. It doesn't hurt a thing to go, hey, can you check and make sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be? But
right.
that is just a healthy thing to not let yourself go in any of those ways.
Yeah. Just one more area, because we have people ask us about it, and we're just going to throw it out there. Keep up with your physical hygiene. That's important. That can greatly improve your sex life if you shower before bed, brush your teeth before bed, wash your face before bed.
So if I climb into bed, now I love the smell of fresh cut grass, and grill smoke is amazing. Mm-hmm. And so if I climb into bed smelling like fresh cut grass or grill smoke, you're not finding that too sexy.
I'm not. I'm probably not going to want to cuddle up with the grill.
Yeah, so, there you go. Yeah. So yeah, take a shower.
Yes.
That sort of thing is a healthy thing to do. Well said, and I think that's important.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, this is real simple. We won't spend much time here, but flirting. Keep on flirting. That will bless your sex life, because flirting is kind of a precursor to intimacy. Now, when you flirt, it doesn't mean you have to have sex later, but men love it. I know I do, and most men will tell you we love it when our wives flirt with us, and that can be something as simple as touching your leg or running your hand down or swatting you on the rear end or just whatever it is. But don't stop flirting. Those are healthy things to do. And we did an episode about 6 months ago on how to flirt, which we thought was so fun. It was a very popular episode. But if you don't know how to flirt with your spouse, message us. I'll find you that link and we'll send it to you and you can listen to it. But flirt with your spouse.
Yes, flirting is good and healthy.
Yeah. Roommates, people who live together as roommates. If I was just living with someone and paying rent, we wouldn't be flirting together. But soulmates, people with a connection, are going to flirt. And so, be a little flirty. Send a little flirty text message. Do something along those lines to just let your spouse know, I still dig you. I like you. That's pretty good. Dig, is that still a word?
Dig. I'm not sure, but we just made it one, right?
All right, that's exactly right. Y'all officially can start using that.
We may have told you what generation we're from right there.
There you go. Let's look at number 5. We're trying to work through 14. Number 5 is?
Say yes more than you say no.
It's really hard when, and I think this is maybe a great place to throw this out there. most men have the higher sex drive in marriage, but that's not the case all the time. In fact, Lee will tell you clearly in our workshops, 1 out of 4 marriages, a wife has a higher sex drive than her husband does. And so you may be listening to this going, I'm the wife and I have the higher sex drive. Awesome. That is fantastic. And so we're not making this is about husbands and we're talking to the wives today. We're trying to make this as whichever way. But if you're the person with the lower sex drive, I will tell you personally, your spouse fears the rejection. They fear the no. They fear that I got a headache tonight, whatever it is. And so work to say yes more than you say no. And if it's a bad night and you're going to say no, maybe the best thing to say is tomorrow night, or
yes.
How about later, or can you give me a rain check today and let's look at tomorrow because I am flat exhausted.
Yes.
You know, whatever it is.
Every once in a while there will be times when you just have to say no, but a rain check is always better than just a flat out no.
Yeah, just a something in the way there to just go, hey, I hear you, but I'm just tomorrow maybe, or the next day. Somewhere we're going to get this, and we promise.
Yeah.
And so work to say yes more than you say no. I would promise you, if you are always shooting your spouse down, they'll get to where they quit asking. And it's going to hurt. That is going to hurt y'all's intimacy in your marriage. It will not be the same. And you may go, hey, I haven't noticed it. It's hurt. But if you're the lower sex drive person, you haven't noticed it. But if you're the higher sex drive person, they'll throw their hand up and go, yes, I'll admit it really, really hurts. And it's not like it used to be because I hear no more than I hear yes.
Yeah.
Number 6.
Talk about it. Talk about it. Man, we grew up in a time where you did not talk about sex. It was, if we got a talk from our parents, pre-marriage, it was an awkward thing. It just wasn't talked about really for the most part.
We didn't talk about anything.
No.
Kissing, we didn't talk about, my parents were a little affectionate with one another. But wow, there was just never a joke about sex. It was just kind of the elephant in the room that nobody can talk about this.
Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden one day we were married and it was okay.
Which is weird.
So
I think in our hotel room, the night of our wedding, we were both like, everybody knows what we're doing.
Right. So hopefully, we say all that to say, raise your kids up with a healthy view of sex, that it's a gift from God. Talk to them about sex early with age-appropriate conversations. There's tons of books out there written by Christian authors that give you suggestions on what to say and when to say it. We don't have any of that information in front of us, but we just stress that.
Yeah.
But we say that to say if you raise your kids with a healthy view of it, then talking about it will just be natural when they get married.
And it's comfortable.
It will be comfortable. It will be natural. And if you're like us, it took us a long time to get there, to be comfortable talking about it. So, because you got to let your guard down. You got to be vulnerable with each other.
Ew, that's a terrible word.
So talk about it because it makes things so much better. You're not mind readers. Neither one of you are mind readers. And, if you're just talking about it and letting each other know what you like and what you don't like, it's going to be so much better.
What works and don't work. And can I just say this? I'll throw this out there. I don't know the statistics, but I would bet anything the couples with the better sex life are the couples who talk about sex, who are willing to go, let's visit about this. Let's talk about what works and what doesn't work. The couples that talk about sex have a much better sex life than those that do not.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. 100%. Number 7, don't make everything more important than sex.
So we're really bad about that. Sometimes what that means is sex is always the thing in marriage that you can push to the back burner. It's always the thing that you can kind of go, we can do that anytime. Right. This is more important.
Yeah. If we have time, if we're not too tired, if the kids aren't in bed with us, whatever it is, we can always push it to the back burner very easily. But that's not healthy.
Yeah. Don't make everything more important. And sometimes sometimes you fall into bed exhausted, and maybe you need to look at reorganizing your schedule if that's you every night.
Yeah, if you're falling in bed exhausted every night and you just think, I just cannot bring myself, to be intimate, to have sex with my spouse, then yes, you definitely need to reprioritize some things so that you're not dropping in bed exhausted every night.
That's not a healthy thing. Don't push it to the back burner all the time and make everything else more important.
And you mentioned this earlier. You talked about scheduling it when you were talking about, keeping the kids out of the bed or what. Right. I can't remember which point. So I think this is just a good time, since we're talking about not making things more important, to just go ahead and talk about, don't be afraid to schedule it.
Yeah.
If you're scheduling it, then you're saying this is important enough to us that we're going to make sure it happens, because life is busy and we get that, and families nowadays are on the go all the time, and they are dropping in bed exhausted a lot of the nights. And so if you just say, hey, every Sunday we just know that is our day, and we're gonna guard that.
No matter what's happened the rest of the
Right.
week, we may have had sex 2 or 3 times that week, but Sunday is our night.
Exactly. And, we're not saying you have to write it on a calendar or plan the time and place and everything else. We're just saying, it's a good idea to know ahead of time, or to say, hey, it's been a while. What does Thursday look like, this week?
We don't have much on Thursday.
Right.
So, So scheduling doesn't mean you look at your calendar next week and you go, how about 3 o'clock on Thursday afternoon?
Right.
We're not saying that, but sometimes what you have to do is go, hey, we don't have a lot going on tonight. Anyway, we can make some time for each other. And your spouse goes, hey, I like that idea, and pop, it's on the schedule.
Right.
You both know we're getting ready for it now. And so scheduling it is very healthy. And you may say, and people say, hey, where's the fun in scheduling it? Where is the spontaneity of that? But can we just say that scheduled sex is better than no sex? Because spontaneity is tough, and if you wait until everything's perfect and everyone's in the mood every time exactly at the same time and everything else, and it's just going to be tough to make that happen every time.
Yes.
And so, don't be afraid to schedule that. That's a healthy thing to do.
It is. And I will just throw this out there. It's really helpful, honestly, for women to know ahead of time, because it's such a mental thing for women. And if we can just kind of get our minds right and make sure all the distractions are cleared and all of those things, then it's usually a lot better.
Yeah. Let's look at number 9,
Yes,
which is
go
don't
back.
get stuck in a rut. And that simply means you don't, there shouldn't be anything boring about married sex. Be willing to try some new stuff, or try a different location in the house, or just something. Keep it from getting boring or dull. There are, I believe, some very healthy Christian websites and even books that will give you ideas for things like positions and different things that you can kind of go, hey, I did not know this existed, and you may be surprised and going, this feels great, I like this. And I guess what we're trying to say is you don't have to do everything the same way every time.
Yeah. And it may be as simple as, wearing some lingerie every once in a while. Maybe that's not something you do every time. Maybe it's, listening to some romantic music. Maybe that's not something you do every time. Maybe it's just something simple like that. But just, it doesn't have to be the exact same every single time.
Yeah, leave some lights on. There's just so many things you can do. Just don't get stuck in a rut. Number 10.
Don't make it all about you.
Ooh, what does that mean?
I think the tendency there is, I'm going to say men probably get the bad rap for doing this.
No, you're being truthful.
But, it generally is a higher need for men. And I think that men need to work harder to make sure they're not the only ones enjoying things.
Yes. So that means men, I'll put it this way, make sure your wife is enjoying it too. Find out what feels good, find out what they like. Work with the goal of not just you coming out of it going, wow, that felt really good, but for them to come out of it going, that really felt good for me too. So don't just make it all about you. Don't just sit back and go, this is my need, and so whatever makes me feel is what I feel good is what I want. Because and I think most husbands, I really do. I think most husbands probably want their wife to enjoy it as well, and part of that may be miscommunication in the sense that they're both of them are scared to talk about what they like and don't like.
That's exactly what I was going to say. This goes back to talking about it and being vulnerable with one another. You've got to let your guard down, and you've got to actually talk about it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yes.
So don't make it all about you. Number 11.
Take turns initiating.
Oh, this is so good. Both husband and wife should try really hard to initiate equally. And why that is because if one spouse is doing all the initiating, they're going to feel a little like they're begging all the time.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned that earlier. If you're always, getting shot down, then you're going to stop asking. And it's kind of the same way. If you're always the one to initiate, you start feeling like, man, I'm begging. I can't keep doing this. So, yeah.
And so, take turns initiating. And it may be a little tougher with a spouse that's got the lower sex drive. But you work hard as well to initiate. And initiating may just be, can I just say, if you're the spouse with the lower sex drive and you're going, I'm not real sure how to initiate tonight, then just try the touch on the leg and go, let's get in bed early tonight and spend some time together under the covers, or something, some way to let him know, hey, I'm interested tonight, or her, just some way to go, I'm interested tonight. And so that's probably all they need. And I will throw out to the spouse with the higher sex drive, can I just say that you two have to initiate? You may be thinking your wife should just know all the time, or husband should just know all the time, I'm ready, just let me know. But you really, it's about communication. And if you just constantly go, well, I'm ready, just let me know when, that's not initiating. You're going to have to let them know with some verbal or body communication of I'm interested in being intimate with you.
Right. And it kind of ties into the next one, which is agree on frequency. You may not be ready to quite move on.
I'm good with that.
But agreeing on frequency helps to kind of know when it's time to initiate, if that makes any sense. I mean, I kind of know, we've talked about, you have the higher sex drive than I do, and we've talked about how often is a good, amount of time. And when I know we've kind of gone past that window, it lets me know, I probably need to initiate, because he's probably waiting for me to do that because he feels like maybe he has the last 2 or 3 times and it's my turn. So agreeing on frequency just kind of helps you, I think, to know when you need to initiate.
The person with the lower sex drive should not be the one who holds the key to how often sex takes place in the marriage. It should be a mutual decision. So if you've got 2 people in a marriage and one of them goes, how about 3 times a week? And one of them goes, hey, I'm comfortable with 1 time a week. Meet in the middle with 2. And so it's just, that's what you call agreeing on frequency.
Yeah, should be a compromise.
It should be a compromise. And some of you with a lower sex drive, and this is just if your spouse has a higher sex drive. When we talk about lower and higher, it doesn't mean the person with a lower sex drive doesn't have a sex drive. Mm-hmm. It just may mean they don't need that as often as their spouse does. It may mean you like intimacy and sexual intimacy with your spouse just as much as your spouse does, but just not maybe as often. It's not something you need quite so often. But frequency is extremely important.
Yes.
So let's talk about these last 2, 13 and 14. Number 13 is?
Don't stress about your body.
Who does that more, men or women?
Women.
Yeah.
Yep, we do.
And that just means women, you may look at all your stretch marks, you may look at your flaws, and you may just see them as glaring things that you just dislike. I can promise you your husband doesn't see that. He just sees his beautiful wife that he just loves to look at.
Yeah. So keep that in mind. Don't compare yourself to other women or to magazine covers or any of those things. Just don't stress about it.
Don't stress about your body. Don't make a bigger deal out of it than it really is. And I'll throw out, this is a good point to put this. You brought it up a while ago. Most husbands are very visual. and very visual in nature. And that's why sometimes, we hear wives go, I can't even change in the same room, So if your husband or if your wife, some wives are that way, if your spouse is a highly visual person, then you be visually generous with your body. And so, if your spouse says, wow, you look great, use that as an opportunity to initiate or know that they love the way that you look. That's just a healthy thing.
It is. And let's throw this out there, and I'm going to pick on husbands again.
Why are you picking on husbands so much?
Because I'm just going to say, guys, don't tease your wife about eating the candy bar and that's going to go to your hips and all those kinds of things, because when you tease her about those kinds of things, she's not going to want to share her body with you.
Yeah, she's not going to want you to see it if she thinks that you're making fun of her backside.
Exactly.
That it's something.
Exactly.
So be cautious about that.
Yes.
You can't take pop shots at your wife's body and then wonder why does she not ever show it to me? Yeah. You have given her a self-image that's not real healthy.
Yes.
Now, this last one's really important, and I hope you've hung with us this long because this is really, really important. We make a huge deal out of this in our workshop. We want you to realize that sex is very powerful in your marriage. There's more to it than pleasure. A lot of people just see the pleasure behind it or the procreation behind it, that, hey, sex helps have children, sex feels good, but God created sex so that you could connect. There's a connection that takes place between a husband and a wife when intimacy takes place. It is the way God created your body, and there is a release of oxytocin that takes place when you're intimate with your spouse that flows into your body, and that oxytocin tells you that this is my husband or this is my wife, and it helps you to connect and reconnect. And we've said as a story, there have been times whether it's life in general is very busy or something's going on and we have not been able to be intimate for a while, and we just kind of get on each other's nerves, and it's like, I love you, I just don't like you very well, and we're just not connected at all. And then we connect sexually, and then all of a sudden for both of us, it's just kind of like, man, I love her, or man, this is my man and I love him. And it's just that reconnection that bonds you, two people becoming one flesh. And that's a healthy, powerful thing that God created married sex to do. And so don't take sexual intimacy lightly in thinking that it's no big deal. It is a huge deal in your marriage, and it is very important. And it took us years to figure this out in our marriage, that when we were regularly having sexual intimacy together, things just worked better, connected better, we liked each other better, we got along better, everything just flowed better.
Yes. Agreed.
Okay. You didn't say any of that.
Agreed. I was thinking. My wheels were turning, but I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to add.
Sorry.
So
I was just taking up all the time there.
You did well.
These are 14 things that you need to know will bless your sex life. They're healthy, healthy things. We are honored that you have tuned in and hung out with us, and we hope that in 2 weeks we'll be back and we'll do it again. You can always reach us at treyandlee.com. If you listen via iTunes, we would be honored if you would give us a rating and leave us a little bit of feedback. That would be very, very healthy. And what else you want to say, Miss Morgan?
Yeah, I can't think of a thing.
All right, we'll close out.
Yeah.
Y'all have a great day, and we will see y'all in 2 weeks.
Yes, see you later.